What is workflow? Workflow is something that is a way to be able to describe what it is you do every single day. So when you get up in the morning, you get out to your car, you get in your car, you turn it on, you drive to work. All these things are specific series of tasks. They're things that you do in a certain order. Well, ultimately, that's what workflow is when you think of what it is that you do at your job every single day. It represents a set of procedures and all the activities followed in order to accomplish a specific task. So if you look at what it is you do within IT and you look at the different things that you do to be able to bring a new server online, there's generally a certain process that you're going to follow to be able to instantiate that server, get it up and running, plug it into the network, all these different things. Those are the kind of things that allow you to be able to define those as a specific workflow. So either you write it down on paper, maybe you're going to drive, you've got it in the back of your mind. However it is you do today, that is your workflow. The key when we start talking about cloud is really understanding how we've got to be able to document that workflow. Because if we're going to translate workflow into something that we can automate, we've got to start by really understanding and differentiating all the things that we do to be able to accomplish that specific task. So the first thing you have to understand is it's really often described as a flow chart or a process map. So if you look on the right, it's a very simple process that kind of shows you from a beginning to an end state with a decision point in the middle. That's a very rough estimate of the many different things that you could accomplish for a particular process. But yours may be extremely complicated. If you're talking about something like bringing a new database server online, there's a lot of things that you've got to do to be able to make that happen. As you go through each one of those steps, you'll be able to drive that into that document and be able to create all the different things that you need to be able to, to accomplish in order to be successful with it. And there will be questions you'll have to ask yourself along the way. Does it have the latest version of software? How many updates do I have? All these types of things are going to need to be documented within that workflow. But understand it's not just technical steps. We also have to be able to include the business process as well. So in addition to being able to load a new server and put software on it and things like that, there's also probably a number of different steps we have to do to be able to get it approved, even to be able to put it on the network. There's different regulatory requirements that we have. We have to make sure security is able to test it. All these different things have to be detailed in that workflow. So don't just think about the technical, you also have to think about the business processes as well. So, if you need to be able to get approval from from accounting to be able to pay for, the costs associated with it, that has to be built into the process as well. You also need to be able to understand that the workflow documentation is actually one of the more crucial aspects of successful cloud deployment. Because as we mentioned before, in a lot of these cases, automation only occurs if we truly understand the process. Because if we have to do something different each time, you cannot automate it. It also helps to be able to simplify the task down to a minimum set of instructions necessary to achieve the desired goal. That sounds simple, but if we go back to those concepts of lean is all about removing waste. So if you don't have the most optimal way of doing it and you automate that process, you're basically introducing a slowdown or waste into the actual process itself. So this is why it's so important to make sure you absolutely think through all these aspects of it and make sure that you just reduce it down to the least amount of things possible. In addition, it'll also be simpler. And these workflows are ultimately going to be used to create those automation rules. So once you've defined all of this out, you're going to be able to then take that into tools like UCS Director to be able to automate the process of bringing on a new application or a new service. So when we get to that point of having that services catalog and that front end, view into Prime Services Catalog where you can go in and do this wonderful shopping cart-like experience, all of the automation in the background is built off these documenting the workflow.